practices, like the ones that I felt like shit, probably because I like removed myself from the idea of expectation. I was just kind of getting through it, doing the best I could.
Yeah.
So I guess
It's saying that we're not live yet.
it's coming. It's about to pop up in a second.
But like counting. Oh, I thought I was counting. Oh wait.
Here we go. It's like the ones that I felt. Oh.
Okay.
Mute. There we go.
Okay, yeah. The ones that you felt bad were your best practices?
Yeah, just because I was like not kind of just in that sort of state of expectation, I think. And I was just really just showing up with what I had. And, you know, I didn't get stuck in my own, I just wasn't spending a lot of time in my own head because it took everything that I had to like exist.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
It actually like reminds me a lot. Did we talk about this already I can't remember.
One
But
of
I feel like I
episode
was
6, a lot going on.
about it recently, but like when I used to get like, well, I hardly ever get hungover, but anytime that I was hungover, like in college or whatever, I felt like it was in some ways forced me to be more present because I just could not be in my own head because I felt so bad, you know?
Yeah. It really does make you kind of go from like a moment to moment sort of energy when you're not like checked out trying to like deal with all the extra bullshit. Like I fucking ugh, a blessing that is, I suppose. I think also I even like what you said, you're like felt a little low energy for today. I'm whenever I'm glad you said that because it really makes me want to like, I feel like noticing that creates the opening to notice like where I am with expectation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can see the expectation like grow when I think like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm not going to be able to do this. It's like, wait, like, yeah, no.
Meaning like you can do it even if you're tired.
Yeah, not even that, but just like, well, yes, that, but also I was going to say like, I can see that I had an expectation that in order for me to do it, it had to be a certain way.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of like what I was going to talk about with this meditation that I'm doing. So I thought a cool place to start because it was like it's like a program, and to do it you have to commit to doing it like twice a day for a little bit of time and for like a few months, and then for 6 months. We probably talked about it on this, and it's like the 2-a-days for the beginning of it, like everything has like a fucking arc, right? Like everything does that. And so I was very aware when in the 2-a-days when I was like, this isn't sexy anymore. Like the luster of the fun kind of fell away, and I was like, oh, okay. Now you're just kind of in the shit. You're just doing it. And so I feel like that's kind of where I am on the single day now. And I'm like, have to get up and like not make an enemy out of this thing every single day. I'm just like
that is such an interesting, right? Because everything that we do has that, right? I mean, I was just thinking when you said that, I was like, I feel like I'm hitting that point. I just started like training with a personal trainer for like the first time ever. And I feel like the first 3 weeks were like cool. And I was like, yeah, okay, like this is new. You know, I didn't like love it. I have never really liked working out that much. But I was like into it. And then I feel like now it's starting to be like the slog.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything comes to that point. And I feel like I've quit a lot of things like at that point, like with piano, which you can see. I'm still hopeful about it. I still have it, but I don't play it. I do play it sometimes, but like I played piano when I was a kid, and I feel like I was like, good at it, and you have this like growth spurt at the beginning, or at least that was like my experience. Like I'll have a growth spurt at the beginning where it's like I'm trying it and I'm new at it and I'm getting good at it, and then all of a sudden you hit that point where it's like now you just have to practice, even though you're not getting better, even though it's just the same thing you're practicing every single day. It's not fun, like, and that's the only way to like get through that.
It's so interesting. It feels like not inadvertently, or maybe inadvertently, it parallels kind of what we were just talking about in the way that, in the sense that like it demands you fall in love with the moments of it, like the process. And I hate that fucking word because like a lot of it just is so overused and very confusing for people. But
Yeah.
like it demands that you be present for the process
Yeah.
instead of like waiting for the like what you're expecting to get from something, which
Yes.
is lit. It's like it's dope, but it's like
Yes. But you know what's so interesting that I always think of, because I've tried a lot of things and quit a lot of things in my life. And but I think of people who like are musicians or like are, have a skill, who they've like had to like hone it and work on it and stuff. And I'm just thinking of like my friend Travis is a bass player, and he just loves practicing bass. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And I'm just like, well, I never really had that. Like maybe that, because I sometimes have wondered like, oh, should I have just have done it? Should I just have, you know, like, is it always better to like push through and just keep doing it? Or like sometimes is it just better to like let it go and try something else? And like, are the things that we're supposed to be, quote unquote, supposed to be doing, like, will we want to keep doing them even through the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why does he like love playing bass and like love practicing, and he'll just like practice whatever, even if it's like not fun? Whereas like I could not get through, like I can practice piano for like a while. I've taken it like intermittently throughout my life, but I just, for whatever reason, like don't love it enough to like continue.
I feel like that's some information for you, but also like I feel like that's fucking that's some useful information, but also like the channeler Daralenka Bashar, he channels Bashar, has this really really great fucking thing where he talks about like he's like, yo, here's the whole script, like follow, it's essentially like follow fun, do what you want. I'm butchering it because I don't remember it completely, but it's like do what you want to the best of your ability to completion, or do what's fun for you to the best ability to completion, and follow that all the way till it's done, rather, and then kind of find the next thing and do that. And I posted a video on like TikTok a while ago, and people were like really like they didn't know what to do with it. They were like, well, I have ADHD, so and I'm like, there's a subtle thing that he says, which is to completion, right? Like having a sense of like when something is done, I think is powerful. And knowing that, like maybe setting that up, be like, yo, like this is what I know. Like I know, like this is kind of externally imposed on me, but this fucking meditation, I've got another like 30-something months in this bitch. Like it's a minute. So that's, I know what completion looks like for that. But I can see how for other things, it may be challenging. It really begs the question though, like what was fun about this for me? Like what did you like about that? And maybe that opens some doors as to what maybe the next thing is that maybe resonates more truthfully with you.
Totally. And I think this idea of like to completion is fascinating, because I read this book called
Hyro.
I have it on my shelf. It's something like Don't Make Me Choose or something. And it's like about this woman like identifies what she calls a scanner. And there's like different types of scanners. And she says like people who are scanners like kind of jump from thing to thing, but there's like different types. So one person could get really, really, good and like master something, and then they move on to the next thing. One person could, seemingly kind of like jump from thing to thing to thing. Another person might jump from thing to thing, but then kind of like go back and kind of like jump between the same, 5 things over and over again. And she talks about this idea also of completion. And it's like, well, what is that? What is it for you? Because maybe your goal isn't necessarily to be a master at something. Maybe your goal is just to understand something until you feel like you understand it enough. Or maybe it's, with piano, maybe it's you just want to learn one song, or you just want to like kind of understand what the keys are, or like there could be, like people have different.
I'm just trying to look cool at a party, man. That's all I'm gonna do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like people have different reasons to like get into stuff, and so they'll have different reason, like different spaces at which they are at completion. And I think a lot of things have sort of like externally set completions, like you said with your meditation, it's this long. Potentially you could feel complete with it before it's done,
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a decision, like when you get to that point, like do you continue based on the external completion that's been set, or do you follow your own feeling of that? School obviously is a good example of something that has like an external completion to it in terms of like getting a certificate, but then obviously some people just keep going to school, or I don't know. So I think it's interesting.
I almost dropped out like way too done. I was done, but I was like, I just don't want to. This is dumb. This is the funniest fucking story. I literally almost dropped out. And I remember I was like, this is so stupid. I'm not going to do any of this. I don't even want to be here anymore. I was like, at the time, I was literally in the middle of like negotiating this grade for this class or some shit. And I got on this elevator. I was literally like, I'm going to call my mom. I don't want to be here anymore. Got on an elevator. The janitor gets on the elevator with me.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's like, hey man, can I ask you something? I'm like, he's a black dude. And that also resonated with me. That wasn't lost on me. And he's like, hey, oh shit, sorry. He's like, hey man, I kind of asked you something. I was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, what's a dean? And I'm like, what? What do you mean, what's a dean? Like, what's a dean? Like, and then I'm like, I don't like the dean of this college that I'm at right now. He's like, yeah, what's that? He's like, I worked at a lot of colleges, like a lot of universities, and I just never knew what a dean was. And I was like, fuck.
I mean, that's a great question. What is a dean?
It's like, and I was trying to explain it, and I was like, he's like, well, kind of like a principal. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? That's a comparable whatever, sort of. And I did my best, but like I remember getting off the elevator, I was like, I guess I'm finishing school now, because this dude is like been to so many universities, never been to one, didn't know what to do, and just has always been like the custodian at these universities. I felt this like enormous responsibility. Like I am literally not. I'm maybe a half a credit away, like a credit or some bullshit. And I was just like, fuck this. I was so over it. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh no, I guess I'm gonna finish now. I just remember that like really touching me. It's unrelated, I guess. Something I found to be really useful is, and I did this years and years and years ago, when I like played football, was like romanticizing the slog. Like the fucking bit where I'm just like, all right, I'm just getting up. I'm just literally be half asleep in the gym, just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna get to it. We'll get there eventually. I started really romanticizing that shit. Like it was just fun for me. I was like, all right, like I'm cool because I don't even care. Like I rolled out of bed, 5 o'clock in the morning, like whatever. I remember that being really fun for me,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a way to get through it. And I do feel like in general, like in our culture, the grind is like extremely glamorized, like romanticized.
Yeah,
and
I guess so. Yeah.
People like love to be like, I'm so busy. I'm working 80 hours this week.
Oh yeah, that's just
I'm on phone calls all day. Like, people like love that shit.
Yeah, I fuck that. You're right. It's way overdone. I definitely have fallen into that many times in my life, to the point where I just like, oh, I'm not even built for it really. Like I need a lot of time to get shit done. Like a lot of time.
I do. And I need like I need just like time where I'm not doing anything. I sometimes like, yeah, I just look at people and I'm just like, how I feel like I have no time and I have like a lot of time. I feel like.
You know what I mean? I definitely noticed though, like when energetically, like when I'm in sort of a better state of equilibrium, when I feel like I'm kind of most showing up most, like it's like time doesn't fucking matter. Like I literally feels like I can like bend that shit. It's just like I have time, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But getting lost in them, like the hustle culture bullshit is that's always tugging. It's always like there for me a lot of the time.
Yeah, totally. I think there's like gotta be some type of balance to reach to, because I definitely know that I'm on the less hustly side, I would say. Are you showing me a book?
No, somebody on TikTok, by the way, we should probably just real quick. Hi TikTok. I'm on YouTube. This is my Spiritual Friends podcast with my friend Sarah. Please follow us on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now. Head on over there. At the end, we'll do a little Q&A and you can ask questions there or whatever. Also, somebody in this chat also asked a question for a book recommendation. So I'm just gonna do like a quick one just for them, because it's gonna be a minute before I get to it. I like these books. I like Inner Engineering by Sadhguru. I guess we can put that on the podcast too. Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, great book. If you can afford the course, it's lit. Really like it. Also love Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism by Chogyam Trungpa. I think it's fucking brilliant. Everybody who does spirituality should check it out. And finally, right now, I sent it to Sarah and I really enjoy it. If you only read the first like 50 pages of this book, it's worth it. It's called Tantra Illuminated. And it is an absolute game changer. Highly recommend. Okay. Sorry. Thanks, TikTok. Back to the podcast. Please continue. I apologize for interrupting.
No, I just think there might be balance. I think I tend toward wanting to hustle less than other people.
Yeah.
But I hustled a lot in high school, I'll say. Like all through, through high school, I did. And then once I got to college, I mean, I did my work, but I didn't, I was going to class like for 4 hours a day or something. I think I just kind of got used to that and was like, I don't think I'm going to like this working any more than this thing.
I literally took a second, like, I feel like a lot of the sort of awakening journey is reevaluating, taking stock of like your past and your past patterns and habits and things. And I'm like, I had to get really clear about the fact that like, I have always spent an obscene amount of time by myself in my own imagination, just kind of dicking around, like my whole fucking life. Like I was useless. They put me in like baseball and I was just like, grass. Like that was my fucking.
Oh my God. I was about to say, I feel like if you didn't like play sports, we would have been friends in PE because we would have just been like picking flowers and like chatting.
100%. 100%. I literally, if I didn't play sports, I definitely wouldn't have. That was a big thing for me. Like I fell into sports. Like I didn't even like want to do it. I was kind of over it. I was like, yeah, this is some bullshit. I'm good. And then like I went to a school and somebody was like, you're really good at this. And I was like, I mean, okay. Ooh, there's some information. There's some codependency that came up there, some fucking validation. I was like,
hard to resist when someone tells you you're good at something.
I know. I was like, yeah, this is, and then I wore that role of rigidity for a long time. But yeah, I mean, I took a lot of lessons from that, but I definitely was not, but I noticed very much like I need a lot of space. Like I need a lot of space to like kind of be before I can come up with stuff. Do you know who Lil Dicky is? He's this rapper. He's a really, really, really good rapper. Isn't it? He's white and he's Jewish and he just is just amazing. And he has a show on FX But over the course of the show, he kind of hints at this thing that like, he's like, oh, it takes me a long time to make an album. Like it takes me a long time to create things. And even like some of his like people on it, like his friend in the show, who's his friend in real life, is like, he's cool with that. Like he's cool with how long it takes him to get shit done. And I thought that was really interesting. And I wonder how that factors into like him and like deadlines and whatever. Because there definitely are creatives who are very okay with being like, this might take a few years. Fuck it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just kind of knowing how you work is really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And how do you even, like, because, I mean, I just think he must have had a lot of support. Like he must have somehow not bought into, I mean, because I just think like myself, like I feel like I also like, I need a lot of space. I like to have a lot of space to like reflect. Like I just could spend hours in a coffee shop just like reflecting on life, you know, like
yeah,
I
man.
love like that space, and I love having maybe like some paper and a pen to like write down some ideas, you know, or whatever. But I think it has like letting myself do that, it is sometimes hard because I feel like I should be working or like doing something more productive than reflecting, you know, because it doesn't feel like it's doing anything. So to be successful from like in your own rhythm, I mean, that's like a miracle. I mean, it's amazing.
Lit, right? Like it's like, you know, this is how I do it. And I'm sure it wasn't some shit he just woke up and did. Like it definitely probably whatever, but it's like, that's, I think Childish Gambino's another creative that I could point to and say like, that motherfucker does everything on his own schedule.
And I feel like there's also the element of like going in spurts, which is also something that I know about myself. And like also my best friend is like this too. Like we'll get really creative and like into something for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it'll just be like gone. And then we'll like get into something else, and then like it's gone. Rather than like, I feel like what we hear is like, oh, if you like are a writer, you should just write every day, and you should like get up at 5 a.m. and just like write every day, and it should be a discipline and like all this stuff. But it's just like, that's just not really how I work. And like, maybe I should try to, you know, like those thoughts go into my head of like, well, maybe I should just try to like wake up and write every day. And I feel like in periods of my life where I like dedicate, you know, every day to something, like I think that is beneficial. And I'm sure like with meditation or like with any spiritual practice or any kind of practice, whether it's creative or spiritual or anything else, that can be beneficial. But also to be like okay with different rhythms and okay with like not everyone does everything the same way, and like some people just in some ways like fit better into the world that like our society has created, and some people don't fit as well, and we just have to like create our own shit.
Legit, like I saw a TikTok about this today where the dude was straight up talking about like he's like people with like ADHD stuff and stuff like this. He's like we've been, I don't know if this is backed up by anything, but he's like, for the majority of human history, I was the useful one. Like, you know, it's like just for the last like few hundred years, like because I'm not able to like sit at a fucking desk for 8 hours, I'm broken. No, that's a little weird. That's a little weird.
It is so weird.
Like I was like, yeah, that's interesting to think about, because I'm like, fuck yeah, you got
like, and yeah, and you think about like all the like pathologies of people are like, oh, we have to like make sure kids sit still, or we have to like just like all of these things where we spend so much energy trying to like control and change them. It's like, okay, well maybe we're creating systems that don't work for us. Like maybe it's not our fault. Like, you know, like I don't know, you
like
know,
a square peg round hole, like fucking do it.
Like why did we decide this is the way? I mean, we all know it's because of religion and power.
Industrial revolution. Oh my God, I thought about something. I saw something this week that it's
Ooh,
gonna
tell
derail
me.
what we're doing.
Tell us.
Literally, I saw it. Maybe I don't know. Actually, this is the thing. Never mind. We're gonna forget I said it because it's gonna be useful for the next podcast. I just want to. It's a Pandora's box, and we're just gonna leave it. But
So
yeah, I mean, like,
to next
huh?
week, everyone. I'm just
Yeah.
teasing it for everyone to come.
But legit, yeah, I definitely lost my train of thought. Where the fuck were we talking about? What were we talking about?
I don't know. Well, now we all just want to know what you were gonna say.
What I was gonna say. Oh, why like it ended up that way? Yeah, I'm sure we can speculate. I'm sure like Industrial Revolution, whatever, whatever. Like there's tons of shit, and I can point all the way to like the astrological reasons of it, to be honest.
Oh, that would be cool.
No.
Okay.
Just, Google the yogic cycle if anybody's watching this. It's really useful. But yeah, I think a lot of the way that we constructed the world doesn't resonate with us naturally. It's kind of out of sync with the sort of natural state of a human, of a person. Not to say that certain things that, I don't want to. I think there's that we rush to go like, oh, this is the bad thing. This fucking sucks. We did a lot of great things, like from the Industrial Revolution, information age. Like there was a lot of useful shit that came out of that. Maybe it was inherently imbalanced, and maybe we could have did some other stuff with it. But like, we're on the internet right now. That's some shit. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
You know what I'm saying? So like, but yeah, I think there is also space to. There's space to get curious as to, man, this didn't serve a lot of people. And I think we're really noticing that sort of on a grand scale right now.
I think being able to like take what works and like leave what doesn't work is something that we as like a society haven't really gotten a handle on. Because I feel like it's just like,
yeah, everyone's
like, we need to go back to hunting and gathering and like living around a fire pit, or we need to go to space. Like, it's like we need to, I don't know, like there's this kind of like all or nothing element to it. Where it's like, and I feel like it's like, okay, let's just look at like the things we like. Like I'm kind of into toilets. I'm into beds. I like shelter, but also cool to be outside. Like,
you're literally like hitting on the crux of like where we are society wise. Cause you literally just described like the nature of polarity, right? Like that's just,
totally.
We're there just seesawing like, this is right. No, this is right. No, this is right. And it's like, hey, it's not an either or situation. And I think a part of becoming an adult is knowing that things aren't necessarily either or, right? We're not two anymore. That's mine. No, it's not. Yes, it's like, what? No, man, things are gotta have a bit more nuance. I think we have responsibility to that.
I see I feel like that's just such a thing right now. And I don't know why it's so difficult for people. But I also, as I was kind of like forming that thought, I think the extent to which we're polarizing at the moment sort of also breeds more attention to the nuanced space in a way. Because like I feel like I've always been somewhat of like a nuanced, like gray area kind of person, but I've never talked about that as much as I have, in the last year when things are so polarized, because it's sort of it's come out as an alternative to like
the crazy, like it's
right. And it's like just more in the forefront. Yeah.
That's a great way of looking at it. I was really thinking the same thing. I was gonna say it differently, but yeah, I totally agree. I think it's like, because we want to turn it into like, oh, this thing is like, we want to get like really fucking bleak about shit and talk about like, it's worse than it's ever been. But it's like literally on the other side. Oh, you're gonna love this, Bo. On the other side of the discomfort of the thing that we're like, this has kind of become old hat, right? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to get up. I don't want to fucking meditate. Or on the other side of that is usually something dope, and we like to forget that. But in truth, I think it really is always darkest before the dawn. And as we are like, I think on the other side of wherever the fuck we're at, like, is something really, really beautiful. And I think you're starting to see it in really subtle ways right now with people like kind of having to sort of acknowledge and live in that sort of gray area. While like, and I think that because that provides space for like, yo, we can make structural changes, but we also need to make internal changes, right? It's got to be, it doesn't have to be like fucking, you know, oh, we got to put systems in place to fix this thing. Oh no, actually what you're supposed to do is work on yourself and worry about yourself. It's not an either or thing. Like
Totally.
They can and probably have to happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like that's going to make both of them more sturdy.
Yes, totally. And they do happen. I mean,
yeah,
I think, right?
I mean, I think so. I think we are.
They have to. It's
We're
hard
having
because
this
like, yeah, totally. And I think thinking about structural change is like hard to think about because it's like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, who decides that? Like, what person or group of people or wave or whatever? It's kind of like something that's like not really in our control as much as like maybe a lot of people would like it to be. You know, it's just we kind of all like, it reminds me of there's a book called Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown, and she kind of talks about how, you know, we've always as humans, or I don't know about always, but like we've always kind of created structures based on like a hierarchy, and there's like a leader maybe, or like she just kind of talks about the way that we have talked about or have created structures and also created movement, which has always been from like get enough people on board and then we can all like go. But she's saying like, no, but what about like birds? Like, what about how birds move together? And it's like, they're not going, okay, you go over there, I'll go over here. It's not like conducted like that. It's like felt, you know, and they like feel the movement towards something. So it's not, it's like an internal shift that creates the external shift just by the relationships, you know.
Relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sexy. Yeah.
It's cool, right?
That is cool. It's challenging, I think, because like we're fucking, the way it's kind of set up is unfortunately kind of feels very separate right now. It feels like we're all very sort of, what does that even look like? I saw this really interesting book the other day. It was talking about how America is like really 11 different countries because there are just 11 different like fucking beliefs and ideas and whatever, just the way that people move.
Yeah.
And I think getting people all on the same page is really, really challenging. But I think in truth, the way into that has to be like with the acknowledgement, or with essentially an intercourse. Like we can't keep being like, I'm right, or I've been wronged, or you're an idiot, whatever. Like it's time to grow up.
Totally. And I feel like part of that is like assuming good intent, you know, because I think right now everyone is like on the defensive or maybe even like the offensive, but I think it's more like everyone's just defensive and they're just like ready to strike any second, you know? And I feel like part of it is just being like, okay, it seems like we have different views on this thing, but let's just assume like we're both human beings who like want to have freedom, who like care about other people and like want to be healthy and like want our families to be healthy and like happy. And we're not like actively wishing ill on anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the truth is like probably everyone is like that. I mean, and the reason that they would be wishing ill on anyone is because they feel like that person is like hurting them or could hurt them or in some way. So it's like to find that commonality and to like recognize the similarities between us.
That's rough for folks, man. Because I think that like it's like getting over the sort of external expectations and ideas that we have around a given situation or a given group of people or person. It's like, yeah, I think I read Dr. David R. Hawkins's book, Letting Go, and he has this thing where he's like, it changed my life when I really sat with the truth that everybody is doing the best they can with what they know. Like that's a fucking game changer when you're like, wait, like even people who do despicable things, right? Like if it wasn't, they think that's the move to some extent. Like they
Yeah,
think this is what they gotta do. Even if it
totally.
is like despicable, they're like, yeah, but like this is what I have to do. So it's like, yeah, I think what you said was like also acknowledging that everybody kind of just wants the same shit. Man,
Dang, are we solving the world's problems right
I think
now?
we just did it. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we
That's the
even?
president listening to this podcast.
Please, please, problem solved. Ugh.
But yeah, it is hard. I mean, I saw it so much with, obviously like Donald Trump,
Mhm,
like my friend, like my family is just like super hardcore, like Democrat liberals, just
mhm.
saying the worst things. And I'm just like, okay, like I get it, but also like just you could be nice still. Like, I don't know. You don't have to like go out of your way to be like, say really mean stuff. I don't know,
Yeah,
like even if you don't like him, even if he's being really mean asshole, like that doesn't really mean that you have to also.
it felt like this shit felt like wait. It felt like when the whole Trump thing started happening. It felt like I was like with everybody, we're all in like a line, right? And it felt like I was like, you shouldn't do that. That's not cool. That's unkind. Really, we shouldn't do that. And like my friend was next to me, like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, yeah. And like, maybe we should probably whatever. And then my friend was like, you mother. And they just like laid into him, like, you ain't shit. Your mom ain't shit. Hope you die. Fuck. And I'm just like, whoa, bro, chill.
You're
And it's
taking
like,
it really
nah,
hard.
fuck this guy. You're like, oh my God. Yo, that's how you feel. And I felt like I was just like, yo, man, are we cool anymore, man? I can't deal with you, bro.
It's like, what are you supposed to do with that? I mean, like, I understand like wanting to get it off your chest, but like,
Yeah.
is that solving any problems? Like, I
I
don't
love
think
people.
it
You
is.
like to sit. It feels like we like to sit with resentment. I talk about this a lot on my TikTok lives, but it's like, yo, to what end, yo? Like, to what end are we shitting on somebody? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to stay a monster. Like, I want to go back though, because you said something and it reminded me of something that I wrote down this week that I've been really, really noticing, which is information isn't wisdom. And and I feel like in the information, we're kind of almost in the post information age at this point. But um where information is so prevalent, um, I think sort of the way that we were taught in school, right? The way that we were brought up in Western society was like intake information, be able to recognize information and spit it back out.
Mm.
And so how we're interacting with each other, given all of the political things, everything that we do is almost identical to that. Like I get information, I take in new information. I know what this thing is. I don't want to say anything because motherfuckers will come for me. I know what this thing is, right? And then I take that information and then I go looking for it. I don't want to apply that to my life. I don't want to get curious about like, anything beyond the headline that I read. I just want to be able to spot it and then use it. It's like I did it. That's what it is. And I think we've gotten so fucking hype on it. And you just watch like as like a herd, almost as a flock of birds will like find a new thing. And it's like, yeah, this is it. And nobody wants to be left out. I know what this is. So you can't say that I'm bad, right? I know what this is, but it's like if a fraction of that energy was put into be like dealing with yourself instead of externally focusing it, we'd all be much, much kinder people.
Totally. We're not checking anything, right?
No.
We're not checking it. Like we're just, yeah, like you said, we're just like computers, like kind of receiving information and then putting it out. And then it's like two computers that received different information are just like, me, no me, no me, no me.
Yeah.
No me. There's no like, like, what is this?
It's like, it's just what it is. And it's just like, yo, man. Yeah, it's super interesting times we live in, but I definitely think that we are moving in a direction of compassion. Like you said earlier,
Hope so.
it gives us an opportunity. It makes the nuance really clear when it's all bad shit.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting also that you say like I'm happy to hear that you feel hopeful, because I feel like over the past few weeks I've like gotten to a really dark place of just feeling very dystopian, and I'm just like, oh my god, we're like living in all of those books that we read in high school that were like warning us against everything
Yeah.
that could go wrong with like society and all of this stuff. And it like really has sort of taken me to a dark place where all of a sudden I just feel like things are so big. Some people, some companies, etc., like have so much power. There's no like, I just almost am like,
All right. Okay.
you
I
know,
wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna.
we don't have to talk about anything.
Nope. We're doing it. We're doing it. Okay. So I saw this. You know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yes.
He's like this dude who like this
Search.
psychologist. He's a professor and shit.
Jordan
whatever.
Peterson. It sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, he was doing this interview with Russell Brand, and Russell Brand was saying this thing, and this is something that comes up as far as like the way that we're moving through our life with like corporations and things like that, and distribution of power, all that. Yeah. And Russell Brand's like kind of right now he's on a tip, he's on a vibe that's very kind of in that like got one foot in that conspiracy land.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched one of his videos and in my dark we're all doomed days, or I think I watched a couple. It didn't like come from him, but he said it, I would say. For sure. And okay, so well, Jordan Peterson said this thing, which is something that I've been trying to articulate for a while, but he gave me a fucking snippet that I fucking like will use forever, which was, don't assume malevolence when ignorance will suffice. Yes.
I was like, yo. And me and him don't, let's be honest, for a long time, like his first book, and for a minute, I was like, yo, JP, I'm good. I see what you're doing, but it still was a little too polarized for me. He's since gone through a big change in his life and whatever. But when he said that, I was like, bruh. Back in the game. Yeah. Bruh. Don't assume malevolence when ignorance will suffice. I think it's so easy to go like, oh, Zuckerberg is in his fucking like bomb shelter twirling his mustache trying to fuck everybody. And it's like, a lot of this shit is they don't care. Like they just don't care. Like it's like, it's so much of it is like innovation for innovation's sake. I think so much of it is more so Dr. Hammond from Jurassic Park. Like it's like you got so excited about whether you could, didn't stop to think whether you should. And totally. I think, I think that way forward provides more freedom than assuming malevolence. Yeah. Of course there is. Of course there are people out there who have the worst intentions for us. But when we go into any situation, right? If it is let's shrink that down, right? If I go into an alley, a dark alley, I'm Batman's parents, I'm stupid. I'm just gonna go in this dark alley at night. If I go into this dark alley, somebody comes up with a situation. The situation is dangerous. It's objectively dangerous. It's a tiger. It's a saber tooth. It's a this is the best Batman comic ever. It's a crazy situation. If my consciousness immediately, like, yes, it would really be useful to identify the threat, but maybe it's too late. Like maybe like it's like everything, it's very clear that this situation has gone left. I'm always going to be best served with awareness like a panoramic awareness of the situation than becoming rigid and tight and say locking in on one thing or two things at a time, which is what what our consciousness does when we are in a sort of state of heightened awareness and fight or flight. I literally saw this anime that I really love. I made Sammy watch the whole thing, and it was these warriors, these ancient warriors fighting, and this one was like meets this dude in a hallway, and she immediately like draws her sword and gets really uncomfortable, and then eventually the guy like kind of walks away, and she talks to her friend. She's like, "Yo, what the fuck is up with this guy?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, he saw kind of me, you know, in my like badassery or whatever. And where a normal person's heart rate would go up and they go into a state of fight or flight, his breathing relaxed and he stayed the same. And his awareness opened up even more." And she's like, it freaked her out because that's what fighters do. That's what warriors do. They're in a state of clarity. So going about the whole conspiracy train, assuming malevolence is going to shrink our awareness and place us in a state of reactivity, as opposed to going in it with clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Shout out to Friday Night Lights. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic.
The movie or the TV show?
The TV show. The movie's absolute garbage. No offense to anybody who was in it.
Anyone who's in it. It's like, oh, are they watching?
No, I just, I don't want to shit. It's not.
I thought you were gonna say like anyone who likes it.
I'm an actor. No, I'm always like aware that like there's a lot of reasons that movies don't work. It's amazing when they do work. So I'm always like, no offense to anybody who worked on it. It just didn't work. Y'all know it didn't work. It didn't hit like that show. That show was fucking fire.
I've never seen it.
But yes. No. But
I love what you're saying. And I think, that's been an interesting thing that I've sort of had to navigate a little bit. Cause this is stuff that obviously everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people are like talking about this stuff right now. It's like very up in like the more mainstream consciousness than it was. But this is something that like I've been thinking about for like a really long time, because I'm really into like nutrition and agriculture and like all of that stuff. And a lot of these big companies that we're talking about like are controlling that stuff and kind of like benefiting from it and lobbying for policies around it. And so you can't really get too deep into like nutrition without kind of like learning about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But my opinion on it was always, they're just profit-driven companies and they're doing a good job at it. You know what I mean? Like it's a bunch of people who like want to make money. They found an amazing way to make money. It's not because they're trying to hurt everyone. Like, and I'm sure probably most people think that they're doing a lot of good for humanity. And so, like it's ignorance, it's profit driven, it's capitalism, fucking we're all in it, it's just capitalism gone.
We can acknowledge the harm though too, right? Like we can acknowledge the harm, like, yo, there's some harmful shit here. But I think coming at it from that perspective, that non-polarized perspective, allows you to notice the harm but also notice the good. Like I'm not in a state of resistance,
and you can also sorry, go ahead. You can also like, I think the way that I've, thought of it is like just empower your own self, like learn and educate yourself. And that is like a hugely empowering thing, like I don't have to eat junk food with a bunch of toxins in it if I don't want to, like just because there's a bunch of boxes with a bunch of shit in it, like at the grocery store, doesn't mean I have to buy it. It also doesn't mean like that it's like horrible to buy that stuff. I definitely have my days where I do, but I am making a conscious choice. I don't have to just buy it because it's in a colorful box and it's cheap and I'm seeing commercials for it all the time, so I think self-empowerment and being able to make your own choice from a place of knowledge as best as we can, because there's always going to be things we don't know, is like in some ways the best we can do. And I feel like yeah, but definitely this year it's like taken this sort of turn to be like, to focus on like malice and ill intent. And I don't know, it's like, yeah, maybe sometimes there's the knowledge that it's not good and they're putting it out anyway, but they're still not forcing you in general to like consume it. I mean,
I'm glad you brought that shit up though, because like motherfucking, that's the thing we forget about is like a lot of the stuff was like you just didn't question it. Like, we just didn't question the nature of our reality for so long.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, like yeah, like yeah, this is good for me. It's great to watch the news for 24 hours. And notice all of the vast majority of these stories are negative. Like these people have my best interests in heart. Like
yeah, totally.
we definitely, I think part of the awakening journey is noticing like the kind of dark underbelly of things, like noticing that like shit that like you thought was crystal clear, like Don Lemon, CNN, like this is it right here. Like noticing that, whoa, there's a lot more to that. And I think, and once again, I guess I should have recommended this fucking book at this point, but David R. Hawkins' book talks about that. It talks about like when you learn sort of the other side of things, like a lot of the time there's anger, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of fucking rage because you're just like, I've been duped this whole time, and you want to like, but it's like we want to. It's outside. It's like it's you. Look what you did.
Yeah, totally.
Look what you fucking did. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like the second you take a second and, like you said, start empowering yourself. You're not only empowering what you're able to do for yourself, but now you can pick that up and like you can be of service to people, right? Like I'm not yeah, they suck, but look, this farmers market is lit. These people really care about their food. You know what I'm saying? Like you can
like redirect your attention, turn the other cheek. Is that what that means? Turn the other cheek.
It could. I could make it. I could fit that in there. I don't know.
Here.
I don't know if it is, but I could make, I can make anything work. So yeah, sure.
In some ways though, well, okay, does it totally not fit? What is it in reference to? Turn the other cheek.
No.
I feel like what
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when I hear that phrase, when people are like, oh, turn the other cheek, doesn't it normally be like, just don't look at the bad thing that's happening? But like maybe it could mean like, don't look at the bad thing that's happening because like, look, there's something good over there.
So the way I understand it is turn the other cheek is a phrase that's sort of indicative of a state of non-judgment and openness, right? Somebody slaps you.
Oh.
You've done a bad thing. I turn the other cheek. Here you go. Knock it out. Get the other one too, right? Whoa. I'm in a state of non-resistance. Whoa. I understand, like, and from that state, right? I know that like it's empowering, right? I'm not attached to my external shit, my body, to you, right? I have a sense of self, and so that's the way I see it. But
okay,
sure,
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but I think that does match. So that fits though, because it's like it's very much when you do sort of move from that state, like, and also I think it empowers people to, when I'm not in this sort of state of like hyper resistance, I get curious about what I give a shit about. Like I can know I'm not in a state of reaction to the bad people out there. I'm just like, I'm more curious as to like people who are trying to eliminate food deserts in cities where people don't fucking see vegetables. Like that was somebody's startup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that kind of stuff is really, really useful.
Yeah, it's like, is it causing fear or is it causing empowerment and excitement? I think that's like a good barometer, kind of like, okay, are you in fear? Okay, maybe you're not seeing it completely clearly.
Yeah, and what are you gonna do? Fear is fucking useless. Like, not useless, but like motherfuckers want to
fear.
Motherfuckers want to sit in fear for like extended period of time and just like gobble up motherfucker. It's like it's the switch that happens when you're awakening is like you literally like or become aware of like, you know, kind of the another dimension, of things a lot. That's kind of a part of it. And like, it feels like our entire lives, right? When we were like growing up, we're right now, if the internet's any indication, people are becoming very aware of how their sort of upbringing and patterning has affected the rest of their lives. So often on the spiritual journey, it can get neglected to like notice a lot of that shit still exists. And a lot of the time, that patterning was by ignorance or malevolence, whatever. That a lot of the time that patterning was fear-based. So when we expand the consciousness, that awakening, a lot of the time we can fall back into that old pattern of like snorting fear to get a hit. Like that's how I feel alive, looking at a fucking conspiracy about like nothing that I'm gonna say and get, whatever, in trouble. But like, and looking at a conspiracy, and I think that a lot of the time I love like asking that question. Okay, cool. That's happening, right. I got you. Thank you so much. So what are you gonna do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
yeah, I love that.
What are we doing? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Am I spreading fear, or are we using that fear? Are we using it as a catalyst for change?
Yeah. It's such a thing right now. And I feel like I follow a lot of people who are not a lot of people, I follow some people who I feel like are very, are into the same stuff that I'm into, like in terms of the nutrition and the agriculture and like all of that. And they're very like, I feel like very smart, like educated people who like do their research. And like over the past few months, they've just gone into this. They're just driving at this like fear mongering stuff. And I'm just, it's like interesting. So it's like, well, what is that? Yeah. Like maybe it's the high of being afraid and like feeling something. Maybe it's like wanting to play the hero and like wanting to be the one to like know the truth or like whatever, like this like superhero fantasy. What?
No, I'm saying like that. Let me tell you what it is. Let me tell you about what it is. Like that kind of.
Yeah. Like there's sort of like I don't know. It's like such a strange thing to watch happen.
It's weird when you like you said, like we're not that old, but like we've been in it. Like I remember when that one big conspiracy that's now politicized, which is hilarious. It's hilarious to people who have been in the sort of, who saw the conspiracy space for longer than like fucking 5 years ago, right? When you've seen that, like, and okay, like that shit is old. That shit's real old, and it wasn't politicized until recently. And like, I think to a lot of folks, it's like it's still mad new. It's like, oh, it's this new thing. It's like they found a new fucking hobby. It's like, oh, this is a thing, and it makes too much sense to not make sense. Oh Lord, what are we? And it's like, yeah, no, I know. I mean, I'm sure you have too. I've had lots of friends go down that like vibe of like fear, and I think it's almost a rite of passage at this point. But like, I know what it looks like, and I've strained some friendships trying to push people out of that state, like trying to like be like, yo man, this ain't it. And I've found through trial and error that it's been best to just show up as me. Like, being my best self has probably been the best shit I could do for anybody.
You know what is so interesting about it is I think for the most part, conspiracy stuff is like not in your experience. Like, meaning, right? Like it's not something that you're having personal experience with. It's always something that you're reading about online, or like it's something that you like heard through the grapevine that like doesn't have a source, that like you can go on these like rabbit holes and like tangents with, but it's not anything having to do with your experience. And so I think maybe that's why, especially like in the last year, it's just popped up, you know, so hard, is because everyone's just at home, like on their computers, and they're not engaging as much in their lives. Like people are just in their heads, on their devices, like freaking out, you know.
Like people were really scared, and it was like it gave them some more shit to be afraid of, and it was like, bro, like you gotta, it's I love how it's not part of your direct experience. Motherfuckers be real acting like that shit is happening.
Yeah, and I think it's like important to, I mean, you know, it's hard because like obviously not everything that is in our direct experience, but like a lot of things are like, I don't know, like I think of, you know, some of the things that I think about are like the chemicals being sprayed on like our food. So it's like, do you notice a difference like when you eat certain foods or not, or different foods, or like, I don't know, like, do you have like a lot of these things you can actually experience them in your own physical, like immediate experience. It's not just something to read online. Like you can test it almost.
Yeah. I you made me think of when you're like, it's not in your direct experience of I do want to say, like, I, as an olive branch to any conspiracy people who may watch this at some point, I think we've like also inadvertently turned it into it's we get real quick to label things as bad, and we stop being curious about them, which is what gives most conspiracy people a leg to stand on, because there were so many things that were conspiracies like this long ago, and it's not anymore.
Meaning like it turned out to be real.
Yeah, like cracking the black community was a conspiracy. In my lifetime, I remember my like stepdad was telling me that, and like people would be like, "Oh, your stepdad's the conspiracy." Like it was a conspiracy that only black people knew. We were only talking about it. Like and it was just crazy, and it was like, and there's been 2 movies about it.
Yes, you know, like, and I think that is a really good point too. It's because it also is like, maybe it's not in your direct experience, but maybe it's in someone else's direct experience.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. So it's like part of it is like listening to each other and like believing each other's experiences. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe I'm not experiencing that, but like maybe someone else is. And I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I can think of like also a number of things that, like a friend of mine was like, really, he's like, people are calling me a conspiracy theorist about this 10 years ago, and now everyone talks about it as though like it's so obvious, you know. And it's like, yeah, I feel like
I think approaching everything with like, once again, that sort of state of non-judgment and curiosity is going to serve us best. And I get it, like people don't want harmful information out there, and like so on and so forth. But I think in our fear, a lot of the time will become closed off to possibilities and things, and that only further drives the point home. It's literally like once again, that sort of polarizing energy of like, you're wrong, you're bad, I'm done with you, we're not going to talk anymore. No, stay away, you're bad, I'm going to suppress you, you're bad. And it's like, man, I got all the TV references today. Live together, die alone. We're either gonna live together or we're gonna die alone. That's from Lost. You do a pop culture channel.
Yeah, one that I will definitely not be on because I don't know any pop culture. But yeah, I mean, I love all that, and I think just like noticing what emotion it's evoking in you, like assume ignorance, assume like rather than malintent, or assume like put yourself in the person's shoes. It's like we all have that. We all have something inside of us, for example, that drives us to like, that could drive us to like want to make billions and billions of dollars. Like if we could, you know what I mean? It's like, what are things that are like in the human capacity in general, and what are things that like maybe aren't as much? I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, people like to really sensationalize things too, and they like want to know about like that one person who's like so crazy, like, so sensational, like no other human is like them, they're so bad or something like that. But it's like, that's not probably that very common. Like, it's not like there's not like a bunch of evil geniuses like running everything. That just wouldn't make sense. I mean, people can't work together that well also. It's just like, be realistic about it.
There definitely are, like, there's definitely a Legion of Doom. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there 100% is. You're fucking full of shit. We're ending the podcast. No, you know what? And here's the thing. Here's my other point is that I think sort of the nature of, once again, back to the awakening process, understanding that everybody has the capacity for everything. And if there are people who I know of who are working tirelessly for the betterment of mankind and people and wanting to, do whatever we can, there is 100% people with ill intent trying to fuck shit up. I just want to see the world burn. I'm not surprised. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense that they don't exist.
Yeah.
But once again, like you said, they don't get to run. Like, a lot of them aren't in my direct experience, and B, what the fuck am I gonna do, like, to empower myself regardless of that situation?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Am
I gonna sit back and like fall into fear and freak out, or I'm gonna like, are we gonna do something different? Right? I'm not down with being like, because it's always gonna be that. There's always gonna be somebody that's trying to do some fucked up things to you. Like, they always exist.
That's true. I was listening to, have you read Sapiens?
Mm-mm.
It's like a history of like the humans. Sapiens. He was like talking about how he was basically saying like anywhere humans have like gone since the beginning of time, they've like caused extinctions of like animals and changed like the environment and stuff. And I feel like we always think of this as like a modern day problem or whatever, like, but it was like crazy to hear. I mean, and I don't know, who knows if that's true, but it seems like it might be true.
I feel like some humans it's definitely true for some humans. I mean, like, I feel like, well, like a lot of indigenous folks like went out of their motherfucking way to like live with that's literally all of like Native Americans' energy is like being one with nature and shit, and not
right. But how recent is that though? We don't know. This could be like millions of years ago. They might have come to that after having a realization.
After taking some L's. But
it was like, it's crazy. And I've actually heard it a number of times on like in different places where people are just like, yeah, humans have like caused so much, like they will just hunt animals to extinction. Like, and I'm just like, okay, like it just seems, I don't know, like, so it's interesting. It's like, I'm not just saying like, oh, humans are bad. I'm just saying like we have these like drives that like don't always like mesh with being one with nature or like keeping everything alive. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's like it was just interesting for me to hear that. But like, I think it goes back to what you were saying of like, it's always going to be like that. There's always going to be power hungry people. There's always going to be people who figure out how to like win the system, in their favor. Like,
that's literally, all right, last pop culture reference, I swear to God, that's literally a speech from like Men in Black 1 where like Tommy Lee Jones is like, Will Smith is freaking out and he's like, what are you doing, like this shit's about to go down, and Tommy Lee Jones like, it's always a problem, there's always a Carillion thing about to destroy the earth and whatever, like that's always happening. And it's such a sobering experience for like Will Smith, but like I see that shit all the time. I literally go like, I'm like, yeah, we're always teetering on the edge, the precipice of insanity.
Maybe that's like that's just part of it. I mean, I sometimes think, about the sort of contradictions of being a human, which is like a lot of things. Like we are attached, but like we get attached to things and to people, but they by definition will not be around forever. Like there's just all of these things that are like hard. And I recently started eating meat again, and it's been like an interesting thing where I'm just like, maybe eating animals is just like one of those things about being human. Not that everyone like needs to eat animals, but I was like vegetarian for like 5 years, so it was like definitely a thing to like to eat animals again. But I was like, maybe it's just like one of those things that just sucks about being humans. Like I like have to eat these killed animals that other humans killed. Like it just sucks. Like that's just the part of the thing. Like, you know, and I can choose out of that and choose not to eat meat or whatever. And like that's what I did for a long time. But if I feel better eating meat, then that's just something that I'm gonna have to like reckon with every day for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but also you can also still empower yourself by like, you know, making sure that's like ethically sourced and
totally
trying to figure that out, you know.
Totally. There's like definitely options of like quality and humanity, like humanely raised.
Yeah. Ooh, it was there for me too. It was like, oh, that's interesting.
I was like, what is it? Yeah, there's definitely options as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, even if you eat the most, I always say like, you know, you can humanely raise, you know, animals and you can keep them on the best pastures and stuff, but there's always going to be the murder at the end that you just can't get around. So, like,
There's
you
always
know,
murder. Yeah, man.
I don't know.
I look, man. I'm a little less. I'm not the food guy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that's
exciting. By
there's
the way,
a lot of contradictions. It's
switching
exciting.
it up. Yeah, man. Like that's whatever. I think there's definitely that's a very sort of touchy thing, especially for people who go through spiritual awakenings. And eating meat, like it's a whole thing, and it's like
it is a thing.
we can get really tight about like tying our spiritual journey to fucking food and to a bunch of stuff, and it's like who knows. Like I think,
I mean, I had to question myself when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start eating meat again. I mean, that's like I had my identity tied to being vegetarian for sure. And I preached it outward as well. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I dropped it. I dropped a lot of that tightness around my food when I just started eating intuitively. And that, it seems like such a weird, like I was like, it seems so fucking like broad strokey and whatever, but in truth, like getting curious as to what the fuck my body wants today, game changer. When do I want to eat? Right? My buddy was like talking about intermittent fasting, and I was like, he's telling me about it, and I was like, oh, that just happened when I started eating intuitively. When I wasn't run by like, oh, I gotta have breakfast now. Oh, totally. I gotta have lunch now. This
so
is
many
the
rules.
Yeah, like when I dropped that, and then also I'm just not tight on what I eat. I lean more vegetarian, vegan, I guess, but like had lamb at a restaurant on Friday, like with my friend, because the menu, that's all they had. It's like, like, all right, that's what's happening tonight, I guess. And so yeah, that's been an interesting journey for me too, the food thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And yeah, and people I know that's a touchy I mean, I'm sure that's a touchier subject than talking about conspiracies.
I know, right? Right.
Yeah, and the JMK Soprano, Jamie, sorry, I don't know. Says, but if we're all one, maybe it's just an act of sustaining a circle of life. I used to like think the earth is literally just eating itself, pooping itself out, and then like creating more versions of itself. Like that's just like everything that's happening. So it's like, it's also like, that's just everything. That's everything
is everything, and it definitely is like I that's why I'm not there's a self-righteous phase that happens definitely in the awakening process, and it's very much like, I know the right way, let me tell you the way you're bad if you don't do it this way. And it's like,
that's a painful phase.
It's a painful phase to watch, but definitely I think it's a part of like, I'm the worst for that. Like, don't come to me with that, because like sort of the nature of the awakening is like creating this panoramic awareness where you see the inherent hypocrisy of literally everything. So it's like, yeah, but also this, right? It's like, this is it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but also this, right? And so I think that's really kind of sitting in that and really getting curious as to like, there's just conflicting information here, and then this person is this. It's like, yo, hold up. What the fuck do I want?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want? What's my thing? How do I like to sleep? How do I like to work? What's my rhythm for work, right? What's my shit? Like moving from that state for everything, it lubricates your life in a way where you're flowing with your own current and not resisting everything and everybody else.
I love that. I love that, and I wish it upon everyone.
Me too. Oh
Can
my
I
God.
read the poem that I brought?
Yeah, sure. I was like, we can stop there, man. We've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole. I don't know, man. It's pretty late.
I know, we're almost done.
Okay.
But I feel like if this might be like a cap on it, I feel like we were sort of talking about this. Okay, it's a poem by Rumi. This will be my book recommendation for the day.
There we
go.
go.
Purity of Desire.
The Purity of Desire by Rumi.
And the poem is called Things Are Such. Things are such that someone lifting a cup or watching the rain, petting a dog, or singing, just singing, could be doing as much for this universe as anyone. I messed it up at the end, but it's so beautiful, right?
That's exactly that's the cap. That's the thing. Yes. Yes.
I love it.
Oh,
That's
things
the
as
thing.
such. Yeah, you don't know, man. We don't. The knowing, I know exactly what this means and the ramifications of this. No, you don't. You haven't thought. No, you don't. We've thought about it like this far, but like you don't know where that butterfly wing is gonna go, like what it's gonna change. And I think do the best you can with what you know right now. I think this is the move right now. That's what I can do.
That's all we can do.
Sexy. Okay. Thank y'all so much for rocking with us tonight. This was fun. You can find this on YouTube. This is Sarah. Sarah, you got anything to plug? Sarah Samuel.
No, I recently got off Instagram, so I have literally nothing to plug.
Hi, glad I tagged you in the post today.
Oh, I'm still like on Instagram technically, but I'm not checking it because I can't for my mental health.
It's probably a good idea. Don't get on TikTok. It's heroin. Thank you so much for rocking with us tonight, y'all, on TikTok and on YouTube. I appreciate you. We are every other Thursday at 7 on YouTube streaming. You can go check us out on YouTube later. All the videos are up from previous episodes. And thank y'all, man. Appreciate it. Everybody's been very kind. And yeah, cool. We will holler at y'all later.